Good evening and welcome. It's a pleasure, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this late session for this tasting session that we are going to carry out thanks to the sponsorship of CONFAGRICOLTURA. For the third year, consecutive year, we have a possibility to taste a series of wines and exploring the characteristics of different Italian regions. So we will start exploring different styles. We will start sparkling wines. We will have white wines, red wines, more or less textured, and a sweet wine, a passito. So different wines are from different parts of Italy to witnessing different characteristics of local wines and testifying the fact that Italian wines can give to Italy and also abroad great opportunities of competition with the food and so penetrating different market brackets. So let's start and go ahead since we're a little bit late. We start sparkling wine and while this wine is being served by our sommeliers, we invite also the enologist of the winery, Monzo Compagnoni, who is here with us tonight, and he will tell us something. Meanwhile, my name is David, and WDCT, and I am an importer of commercial wines, and it will be a pleasure for me to accompany you through this journey for the exploration of wines. So, good evening. My name is Stefano Graffi, and I represent the winery Monzio Coloni, and we are based in Franciacorta since 1995. We produce 200,000 bottles. We have 22 hectares in production. 60% is Chardonnay, 35% is Pinot Noir, and out of 200,000 bottles produced, the majority is a classical method, and this is the characteristic of Franciacorta. And tonight, what we're going to taste, we have a 2018, and we have a vintage brut, and we opened it after 36 months because we thought it right, and we didn't believe that it needed more aging. So grapes is 80% Pinot Noir, and the base is ferment in still 10% of Chardonnay, which stands also in oak, not exhausted, but so it's not to be meant to add vanilla, but we use oak to ensure a different fermentation as compared to steel. And aging is 36 months, and the acidity is not too high compared to the average in Franciacorta, 7, and we have 5 grams of sugar content per alcohol content is 12.5. So a very short introduction also with regard to the Franciacorta area. We are in the Lombardy region, and we are close to the Iseo Lake, and this is an area which presents a morainic there, so we have a strong influence of the lake. The Iseo Lake is a small lake, but contributes to having a more milder climate, despite the wind coming from the mountains. So again, we are in the Lombardy region, and we're going have this wine served. And I know that when we taste sparkling wines, the first thing we note is the look. And I always try um, uh, to focus the attention to other items because the bubbles spread in different ways into how the wine has been served. And in order to note the perlage, well, of course, it is important to take it. So please apologize. So I've been engaged in the tasting sessions, so I will use the spittoon, but it's the aperitif time. You can also avoid it. Well, this is classical method, and the first thing that I know is number one, this creaminess, which comes from aging. As we were saying, we are talking about a vintage Brut 2018, so 3 years on yeast. And in these 3 years, the wine integrated the bubble and a Chardonnay base. And this is an element in during the first sip, you have exactly this in the mouth. The first attack is a Chardonnay, overwhelming and with this creamy texture and with this integrated bubble. And then and we have also this the full-bodied and fruity note, remind of Pinot Noir, with a P at the end of the mouth, and I find it very interesting. What do you think? Because it's not me tasting this wine. Do you like it? Obviously, well, at any time, please feel free to make questions. Please express your ideas, opinions. So if you want me to focus on specific topics, please feel free to tell me. Also, for those in video connection from online from Chicago, please, I'm more than happy to answer your questions. And obviously, we have also an aromatic approach played on a Chardonnay, which more than other blackberry grapes provide for this biscuit-like approach. And this is a Brut, and as I can note, we have this sweet sugar content, which is not so strong. The end of mouth, this is not so important. So can you perceive it? And well, I'd like to define this because in Italy we have normally extra brut or padose. Instead, abroad, this is not much observed. And it is also very much important that the products are dosed because also the dose maintains the evolution of the wine and the sugar content maintains bubbles. And but if it becomes too much a persistence, then in the end it annoying. But in this case, there is a perfect balance also with the acid part. Don't you think? I liked it. So now I would proceed with the second wine. Well, we're still north of Italy, but we move to a different region. We are in the Friuli Venezia Giulia region, between Udine and Pordenone, the Grave area. And here we have the winemaker online of Vinagredi. So good evening. My name is Andrea Giuliano, the enologist of Magredi. So we are in the Friuli Venezia Giulia region in the province of Pordenone, and in an area where we have many rivers, Miuna and Selina, and this is a territory with many rocks, as you can see here, these images, and you can see the white pebbles, and therefore, when the sunlight irradiates, well, this provides the vineyards to be exposed to the sunlight. And we have the Prealpi of the Friuli region and of the Veneto region. And of course, this is an advantage in the creation of white berry aromas. And therefore, we have Sauvignon Traminer for the most. And then, of course, we have a production of Ribera and Grigio and Glera. These are historic characteristics. And the winery was established in 1968, founded by the current owner, Otello Tombacco, and we have actually Michelangelo, who could not be here for institutional appointments, but he greets you. Now we are offering you this Pinot Grigio white berry variety still, and the most representative wine of our winery, representing 40% of the white berry production that we have. So we're opening the bottle with you. And from the video, you can also see our circular vineyard that we like a lot, that we are proud of, and where we also produce a Sauvignon Blanc. So this is the image of our winery, the logo, and that is a circular vineyard, the center of life and the center of the family. And so let's taste the wine. As my colleague was saying, the first aspect to note about the wine is that the color in the glass, and we can know that this has a greenish reflection, discharged yellow, and so it represents the fact that this is a vintage wine. And then the olfactory part. And unlike what we have normally with the wines, spumantes, well, we can fill the wine and then bring it to the nose. And definitely the first aromas that we perceive are those of the fruits, and we can perceive, for example, pear, and we can also perceive peach and green apple. And then we can also perceive flowers. And then tasting it in the mouth, we have a perception of acidity, freshness, but still very round and harmonic. And this is a wine that requests simplicity, and it's easy to drink. And this is part of our philosophy, because we want to wines that facilitate relations that can be consumed in company when you enjoy opening a bottle. So the alcohol content is 12.5. And all these wines are very dry, no sugar content, and it is the maturity of the grapes that we harvest that provides this sweetness in the mouth.
Unlike my colleague, when I taste, I as well. I understand that. And then we were having an aperitif here at the because we were celebrating the end of harvest. And so in the past day, we've picked our rebosos, so we have reason to celebrate. And then, as usual, the harvest moment is always a festive moment, and it holds true everywhere in the wine world. Thank you very much for your introduction and your tasting. Thank you. Any specific questions? We're here to take them. Very well. As it's been very well described, this area is very special. It's called Gra because of the rocky substrate. It's a wine that builds its entire structure on this vertical acidity with very few deviation and a salinity that you find in the end, which is what you'd expect when you taste a Pinot Grigio or Pinot. Also because of the way in which it was created, stainless steel without any special mass, not even before fermentation, is meant to be very straightforward and simple, a product that must be easy to drink and enjoy as an aperitif. Now, the next glass will take us to the south. We're going to Molise, a region of Italy which is often neglected, including by Italians. A small region with a very complicated history. In the past, it was part of the Abruzzi, then it was separate from it. It is very special from a geographical standpoint in that it lies along the Adriatic coast with a very strong tendency to so with a lot of rocks and mountains just overlooking the sea. The winery is very young. It was established in 2013 and not a long history, but a lot of willingness to promote indigenous grape varietals and a few alloctonous varietals, such as Falanghina in this case. Now, the Tremiti is a group of islands that you can see from Porto Canoe, where the winery is based, and beautiful to visit. So if you happen to be in the area one day, just take a ferry and you'll be there in just 1 hour, and they're just wonderful. The most famous Falanghina must be the ones from the Campi Flegrei or the area. While in the area of Molise, this Falanghina will keep the same level of acidity, a prominent acidity, very straightforward, that we are in the south with a lot of sunlight, south facing, 110 meters above sea level. So not a very high elevation, but it manages to preserve a lot of acidity despite the heat. That is a capacity that not every varietal can boast. The approach is very aromatic begins with green, almost a brackish notes, and then it will deviate towards fruit notes, including nectarines. As usual, I prefer to evaluate wines based on structure and mouthfeel, especially. And the mouthfeel is very rich. It's rich in minerals. There's a big acidic component, but it also opens up slightly. These are phenolic sensations on the palate. It sort of widens in the center of the mouth. So this is certainly an angina that is drinkable, but one that can be paired with well-structured dishes, so it's not just an aperitif of falangina. Okay, I think there must be someone online for us. My apologies. No problem. But Davide, you've said everything. You've told the whole story. Okay, let me give me a short intro. Okay. You had been briefed this morning, so you told the whole story very smoothly. So my name is Flavia. I'm the export manager of Tenimenti Greco. As David said, ours is a very young winery that was established in 2013. It was established by Antonio Greco, a businessman who had very little to do with wine and had always nurtured his passion for wine anyway. So he purchased these 85 hectares of land close to the sea. It's really by the sea. This is the exceptional position we enjoy. This is one of the things that we're really proud of, the position of our vineyards. So as David was saying, as he was pointing out, is a region that is not so well understood, not only abroad, where I'm the export manager. It's very hard to present Molise abroad. And but when you tell the story, the customers will like it. Even in Italy, not many people are aware of the wines from Molise. We have whites like Falangina, and we have Montepulciano and Aglianico as reds, and we have an incredible autochthonous varietal that we will taste later on in Tilia. So we're a melting pot of the wines of Italy. In case we call it 200 meters, 200 metri, because based on the rule book, you cannot plant it 200 meters above sea level. It's a very special varietal, and maybe we'll have a chance to tell you more about it. The winery, as I said, is very young. Years were devoted to the domestic market, and then from 2015 on, we've started opening a few farms. There's a long way to go still. We're only working on monovarietal wines, so wines, because that's the idea that our winemaker is cultivating. Concetta believes that our wines should be young and drinkable. There's just one that takes aging in oak. The rest of them are aged in stainless steel, just to bring out the very best. And our whites, and this Falangina particularly, what we'd like to have you feel in our wine, to detect in our wine, is the sea. Okay. This is Passo alle Tremiti. Our vineyards are overlooking the Tremiti Isles, as you pointed out, and they're just over the sea. Sapidity is the key characteristic of this wine. On the nose and in the mouth, you feel the saltiness of the wine. This I was telling about one fact. During our very first harvest, we were really scared. We saw the berries covered in white dust, and only to discover later that that was salt. So the sea is bringing the salt to the very berries, and what you find on the palate is nature itself. I'll let you taste the wine, and then I'll tell you more about the tintiglia. We'll call you on for the tintiglia again.
Piccolo excursus. Stamattina avevamo già avuto.
Now, it is true that this morning we had already had a chat online. So we'll hear about the tintiglia later. Our Falanghina has this very brackish, salty approach with this sapid finish that will anyway preserve its own structure. Can be paired with more structured dishes. It's a prior for a certain type of restaurant. How do you like it? That is what matters. What do you think about it? There's a comment being made in the audience in Milan, which we don't hear.
Traduco anche.
That will be translated into Italian and retranslated into English. That is very interesting because of its very phenolic approach, which is interesting, particularly nose. It's very intriguing because of how it could go from moss-like hints to brackish hints. Is perhaps the most entertaining part of the glass. Of course, Falanghina tends to always have this component, sapidity as well, especially on volcanic soils and in the Phlegraean area. But the aromatics and phenolics in that area are not so widespread, while this is a very interesting fact about this particular sample of Falanghina.
Proseguiamo oltre.
Okay, let's move on.
Quarto vino.
The fourth wine. The fourth wine is going to take us to Sicily, an area in Sicily which even farther south than Sicily itself. The wine comes from Pantelleria. Pantelleria is an island which is a Sicilian island, but closer to Tunisia than Sicily itself. And the names of the vineyards, of the hamlets, and of the vines are much more within the tradition of Tunisia than of Sicily. And very often, Pantelleria is considered to sweet wines, which is certainly true. And I'm going to taste a sweet wine as well from Pantelleria, but it's also necessary to point out that in Pantelleria you can also make wonderful dry wines, aromatic wines. That goes without saying, because the extreme of an area which is on the same parallel as Tunis, we are very close to the equator, and with very high temperatures. Consider that the pruning method and the training system that is best suited and also traditional is the alberello. And alberellos won't is close to the ground and with very few fruited heads. And it offers high quality levels, but it's very intensive. But it's used intentionally to prevent the heat from scorching the grapes, scorching the bunches. In this case, this is one of the most typical varietals of Pantelleria, the Zibibo. Zibibo is the name that it is called in Italy, but internationally it's the varietal known as Moscow of Alexandria, which is a second cousin to Blanc.
Vino che è sicuramente molto aromatico.
So it certainly is very aromatic. It is harvested towards late August, at the moment when technological and phenolic maturity is reached, and then it is fermented to dry. It's a classic fermentation in steel.
Ecco, qui sicuramente l'acidità risulta.
Now, acidity clearly is less evident than in the previous years. That is in
La zona
also because the area and the type of wine, style of wine that is common there. But it is a wine that has its peculiarities, and it is interesting in terms because of its aromatics. On the one hand, you have this acidity that fans out on the palate, although it is a medium acidity, perhaps medium-low acidity, but still present. And then that it will amplify all the aromatic hints that are very, very distinct between a very ripe fruit, close to tropical fruit, and hints of pineapple even, that are very, very ample. What do you think?
sicuramente un vino molto aromatico.
Certainly a very aromatic wine.
Espressione? Espressione dello zibibbo molto presente.
Is it the typical expression of Zibibo? Yes, it's very prevalent in this wine.
Delle note quasi mielose.
With honey-like notes and a like hint. I wouldn't call this brackish because brackish is what would apply to the previous wine, but it is very sapid. That is very present, very detectable, and that is another influence of the sea climate and this big variety of aromas, especially primary aromas or fruit aromas.
Un vino che è su diversi
A wine that is extremely well paired with many different cuisine styles, such as ethnic cuisine or cuisines that commonly use spices, where necessarily you need to play around with momentous aromatic styles that can support the pairing. I think the vintage is 2021.
Passerei ora invece all'ultimo.
So I would now move on to the last white in the fruit.
In questo caso facciamo un lungo salto e torniamo.
So we're going to take a big leap back to North Italy. North Italy is again means Lombardy, but while before we were between Brescia and the Franciacorta area, now we are moving to closer to the border with Veneto. We're in the area of Lake Garda, a much bigger lake than Lake Iseo. This is the Cobue estate, and here their white is made from an indigenous varietal that we've heard increasingly in recent years, also in terms of quality. And here with us is a representative of the farm of the estate. Hello.
Buonasera, pronto? Eccoci. Buonasera a tutti.
Good evening, everyone.
Benvenuto.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you
Mi dica pure, devo parlare della mia azienda?
Should I spend a few words about my farm? Yes, of course.
Allora,
Feel free.
mi chiamo Gilberto,
My name is Gilberto.
famiglia la terza generazione di
I'm the
vignaioli.
third generation of my grandfather on my mother's side purchased the estate in 61, and we are near Lake Garda on the border with Veneto. We're the only municipality that lies on the Moranic Hills and is bordering on the lake. We make Lugana wine. Our hills are characterized by clay and limestone, so we have the mineral and the characteristics of both. So we can produce traditional Lugana wine with a very nice vertical wine as a result. And we have acidity, mineral, very little residual sugar. We have several vineyards, approximately 8 hectares of Lugana, total 15 hectares on the estate. We always vinify the vineyards based on their exposure and based on the soil. It could be only clay or only limestone or both, and then we produce our blend that we'll be tasting together. So we make a decision on how to blend the various wines based on the vintage. We produce over 100,000 bottles. Half of them are Lugana. We're in a beautiful area overlooking the lake. I don't even want to our wines because I would like you to speak about it. I keep saying that wine is good when you like it. You all have your own mouth, nose, and food and knowledge, so you can find what you want in the glass. So thank you all for being with us and enjoy the tasting. Thanks a lot.
Ok, come ci ha anticipato anche sulla produzione aziendale.
As we've heard, there's a lot about this farm. Adding just another detail, the designation Lugana is named after an indigenous varietal which is locally called Turbiana. So again, we're talking once about this diversity of indigenous grape variety that Italy can boast. Sometimes it's also called the Trebbiano di Lugano.
Passiamo all'assaggio così.
Okay, let's taste it.
Facciamo contento, anche io lo vedevo bello carico.
So we'll keep Gilberto happy.
Ecco, qui mi piace subito soffermarmi su questa.
Okay, I'd like to dwell on this nice acidity, which is pretty biting initially. It's almost vertical.
Sembra molto molto veloce.
It's a fast acidity, I would call it that way. It's very clear cut. I like acidic wines, which I think are always very interesting in Italy, and I keep hunting for them all the time. This acidity is carrying the flavors in the sip and carrying them across the palate. How do you like it?
Anche qui poi quell'approccio più
And again,
sapido, salino.
there's a more rapid and salty approach that is lingering. It's certainly less present than in the previous glasses, but again, it's a common trait that is like a fil rouge across this tasting.
Consideriamo inoltre che è una Lugana
Let
che
us also consider that this Lugana is a wine that can boast 13.5% ABV. I would have thought there would be less alcohol. That is something that increases the body, makes the body of the wine very appreciable, but also something very clear-cut about the sip.
siete un po' timidi.
Well, you seem to be a bit shy.
Non vi è piaciuto?
You didn't like it, did you?
Sì?
You liked it? Good.
No, chiedo, magari
I'm
non diceva nessuno in realtà.
So maybe no one liked it, and I was the only one who liked it.
Allora, ci spostiamo ora
Okay,
verso
now
il primo dei rossi.
we're going to the first of our reds. We're back to Milano, and this time I'll leave immediately
A parlare da tenimenti greco.
to representing Tenimenti Greco so that she can tell us more about the Tintiglia. Here I am again, just a couple of words, and then I'll let you taste. This is a not so well-known varietal. Tintilla is the smallest DOC that exists in Italy. It's the one with the strictest rules in its rule book as well, because the minimum elevation is 100 meters above sea level. It's a very ancient varietal that had been completely neglected and forgotten. So very little wines were made from it, and hardly ever 1% of these grapes were used to make any single wine. 15 years ago, it was rediscovered, and the rule book was written with very strict rules that left out many producers make a Tintiglia DOC because they don't have the right elevation. So we are among the largest in all of Malaysia. We produce approximately 2,000 bottles of Tintiglia every year. The characteristic of this varietal is, as you will be able to tell, that it contains lots of red fruit, first and foremost, and then spices. Spice is the upfront smell, especially black peppercorn. When it is vinified and you walk in the cellar, you have the scent of black peppercorns. In our case, we vinify it with a 100% proportion in our wine, and it only takes stainless only, and it is preserved as much as possible with its pristine characteristics. It's still the same basic idea that we want to preserve the variety at best. So I'll let you taste it now. Thank you.
Quindi, come già parliamo di
So, as we've heard, we're talking about an indigenous varietal, a rare varietal, one that was neglected for longer. And in recent years, as has been the case for dozens of Italian varietals which had been sort of sidetracked for a number of reasons, is being rediscovered. 200 meters minimum elevation based on the rule book, and actually their vineyards are at an elevation of 3 meters above sea level, so it's slightly higher than the minimum set.
La spezia, come
As we've had, spices are the most distinctive trait of the tortilla from Molise. The black spice, the black pepper, a spice that will tend to some notes of like cardamom, which is perceptible even when it doesn't take any aging in oak.
Anche in bocca, notate come
So to the palate as well.
toccato su un tannino delicato, di sicuro
The tannins are smooth, not the tannins that you get from contact with oak, and it's tannins that have been preserved from oxidization. And the fact that they're only using stainless steel is very perceptible in the glass. And yet, this warmth, this heat, because this is way south, and there's only Apulia that is more south than Molise. It's a very warm area.
questo è veramente forse uno dei vitigni
And this is perhaps the varietals that in recent years has been claimed more by producers that I like a lot to discuss when I happen to have it in my tasting flights. What do you think about it? How do you like it?
questo approccio così speziato vi intriga?
This spice is something you find intriguing, appealing.
Yes. Allora, la domanda che è stata posta è
So the question that has just been asked is whether 200 meters above sea level is the minimum elevation
per la tinta
for Tintiglia alone or for the designation. 200 meters is only growing Tintiglia. And
scriverla poi nel nome, quindi utilizzare la
if
denominazione.
you want to use the designation name on your label, Tintiglia del Molise, your minimum elevation has to be that. While with the general designations, you can still plant, grow, and use Tintiglia in your wines at lower elevations, from lower elevations to 200 meters sea level, but you can use the name of Tintiglia, whether on the front or on the back label. And you can also blend it with other varietals, and you don't need to say which ones necessarily.
Tanto che i tecnici continuano il loro lavoro.
So while the engineers keep working on the presentation, we'll continue our hard work and we'll make some progress. We're moving a little bit to the south.
Del sud e ci spostiamo in Calabria.
And we're gonna move to Calabria.
Siamo in Calabria. Calabria è un'altra di quelle regioni che
Calabria is another region that has never been really regarded as key from a wine perspective. The Terre di Balbio estate, called it's a wine that contains 100% Magliocco, another indigenous varietal that is mostly found in the region of Calabria, and also but very small proportions in the northeast of Sicily as well. The winery is located at Alto Monte, which is in the province of Cosenza, and is very close to the foot of the regional park of the Pollino. So there's a warm influence. The geography is very interesting, very warm, but also the park has mountains that are as 1,200 meters above sea level, and heights mitigate the breezes that will blow south to north and north to south, depending on the time of the day. So also, in terms of grape integrity, that is very important. The lack of moisture and humidity really helps prevent chemical treatments, sprayings. This is just pure Magliocco, and it's got a lot of personality, beginning with the nose. It's very, very interesting.
Posso intervenire e dire anche io?
Can I say something?
Abbiamo il
Sì, sono qua.
I think we have the producer online. Yes.
Ci siamo? Perfetto, mi scusi. Non abbiamo
Sorry, where? Because we can't see on our screens who's online and who's not. But just know the area quite well, because you said something that was very appropriate about what we do. Add a few pieces of information about our. We're at the foot of the hills in central Calabria, between two seas. Our small winery. We have just a bunch of vineyard hectares under vines, and our most prominent red is Fervore, which is made of from Magliocco grapes, an indigenous Calabrese varietal, which is typical of the province of Cosenza, where our winery is based in the town of Babbia is the Roman name that Altomonte used to have. There are texts that date back to 60 AD that speak about the varietal in connection with our town. Ours is an artisanal production. We hand harvest, we hand pick, and we only vinify the grapes that we produce on the estate. When it comes to Fervore, the grapes and the wines consequently are very rich in tannins, and so during the vinification process, tannins needs to be softened, to be cooked out and tamed. So that's why we use oak in our aging process, and we use a French oak only. This is necessary to obtain micro to soften the tannins, to smooth them. After the year the wine spends in America, the wine is kept in bottles for another 4 years. So it is released 5 years after harvest, and that you're tasting is 2017. As we all remember, that year was very warm. Another important characteristic of this varietal is the low alcohol content. Although it's a wine from the south, on the back label you only read 13% ABV, and it's 12.5, while 2017 was an exception because it was a very warm year again. We vinify this varietal 100% to make this wine. In our rule book, the rule book of the consortium that we're part of, we could call it Magliocco with a minimum of 85% of the grapes being Magliocco, since we wanted to identify with Magliocco grapes especially. We have only used Magliocco grapes to make this wine. And we also communicate about that. And it's a very demanding wine, if for nothing else, the fact that you have to store it for 5 years. But that is the minimum time you have to wait for to get the most harmonious of this wine. Thank you very much for listening. Back to you.
Se ce l'abbiamo ancora, ci dice esattamente quando c'è.
Can you?
Ci sono.
Nel 17 è stata fatta la vendemmia.
So when did you harvest the grapes in 2017, since it was a very warm year? Well, it was a very warm year, I confirm, dry and hot with very little rainfall and high temperatures. Generally, we harvest in October, but that year we started harvesting early in September, so very, very soon. Thank you.
Così abbiamo la risposta in diretta.
Okay, so we got an answer from the producer.
Sì, come poi mi apprestavo a dire nella fase degustativa, quello che poi mi piace sempre trovare, soprattutto nei vini rossi italiani, è questo approccio tannico.
What I like to find and discover all the time in Italian wines is this tannin based structure. It's tannins that really gets at your gum. That's a kind of tannic structure of most Italian wines that contain lots of tannins. These are tannins that are enveloping and expand, fan out in the mouth. We find fine-grained tannins that will stick to your gums.
E a espandere poi su tutti quelli che sono gli aromi.
And then it will hide all the aromas, it will expand to all the aromas. It's close to being a chewable tannin.
Un vino che anche per questo poi, pure se non è stato dimenticato, secondo me ha delle grandissime potenze.
This wine, although this was a neglected varietal, has a high potential for making top quality wines because of its aging potential. And hopefully, although only a minor part of the production is taking place in new oak,
Questa struttura così ferma, così
it is this process that they have eventually gone for that has softened the tannins, has imparted this particular structure, giving different expressions over time. What do you think? Is it perhaps too tannic to you? Does it taste too tannic?
tanto, vero?
A lot, really.
Sorry? Assolutamente sì, diceva, è da mangiare con
Yes,
una bella bistecca.
it's something in a very nice. Yes,
Perché poi mi piace raccontare, nel senso, un vino poi va anche
and this
contestualizzato.
taking back, this is a wine that needs to be contextualized. That when you drink it at the restaurant, it calls for lush meat, very fat meat, and it will really find meaningful in that pairing.
Molto bello secondo me.
Beautiful, I think. Just read
Passiamo Emilia Romagna.
comes from Emilia-Romagna.
Emilia Romagna, tra l'altro, con un esempio invece
Emilia-Romagna is offering us an example of lactonous or foreign varietal
in Italia. Abbiamo qui il piacere
planted in Italy, and we have the pleasure of hearing the representative of Cantillasta. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to attend to this tasting with this wine that we have called Angaranus, just to to underscore the town we are based in, Langhirano. Our winery enjoys a very interesting microclimate and soil that also encourages experimentation. We have vineyards between 50 and 400 meters in terms of elevation, but our valley has a south by south facing, and we therefore are hit by the wind that is benefiting the raw ham of Parma, which Langhirano is known for. And so the saline breeze that gives us such a special microclimate. So the exposure, the clay-rich soil, and this particular wind makes our vineyards unique. Parma is known not only for its food, but for its wines, not just for the cured meats. So the new enology that was brought about by our brand new winemakers. Our winemaker has traveled the world and has come back to Parma to bring his knowledge to bear. And he is producing wines. In this case, we have a Cabernet Sauvignon. It's a Cabernet of the Colle di Parma, DOP, or a PDO wine. Our training system is the Guyot. Our area is an area of sparkling wines like Malvasia and Lambrusco, but our winery made a decision to do something against the rules, and this wine has spent 24 months in oak. The wine that you are tasting is a 2018. The bottle is a bottle made from grapes that were harvested in 2016, and it spent 6 months in stainless steel and 18 months in French oak. Used several before then, and this is a product that we're very proud of. That all is perceptible through the glass. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We'd like to thank the producer for the introduction. As he mentioned, the wine comes from Langhirano, near Parma in Emilia-Romagna. And the Marino wind, the winds in Langhirano will blow through the Pisa Pass, which is the pass that connects Emilia-Romagna to Tuscany and Liguria. That's where very special winds blow across the Apennines. It's Cabernet Sauvignon planted in Emilia-Romagna.
Ecco, qui anche un approccio sicuramente caldo, con un
So a wine that feels warm with a well-integrated taste, and compared to the previous sample, it's a lot less aggressive. It is still very enveloping, and in the finish,
più aromatica,
you get the aromatics more,
strutturale, tannico.
and very tannic and neutral. In terms of aromatics, I am finding notes that span from vegetal to some leather, tobacco, undergrowth.
Sentite altri di questi cluster, appunto cuoio.
Again, leather.
Delle note più leggermente più fruttate, ma che rimandano comunque.
You can also detect more fruity notes, but black fruit like plums. What do you think? Can you think of other descriptors? Mushrooms?
Fungo. Sì, un po' funky.
That's slightly funky.
Anche qua sicuramente con un bel piatto,
So that would work well with a very nice meat
con un bel ragù. Beh,
or a very nice ragu.
culinaria
Think of the culinary tradition in Emilia.
direbbe
Well, it would make a lot of sense to pair it with those dishes, but also with international cuisine. Could be a very entertaining pairing. The vintage again is 2018.
di evoluzione. Ok, sì. Sì, 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 no.
Well, you can detect some level of evolution. Yes, possibly. But it may come from this long
Queste botti esatto, che comunque
time spent in oak, because oak micro-oxygenation.
sì, sì, sì. Diciamo che sono cluster simili.
These are similar clusters. In this respect, I wouldn't say that it is going to be short-lived. It's got a time ahead, but these clusters are not the longest lived,
Passiamo ora
probably.
all'ultimo,
Wine.
saranno anche magari alle domande dall'estero e
Maybe there might be questions from abroad, and we'll all be ready for dinner because these wines have made our mouths water. The final sample, sweet wine.
Pantelleria, quindi lo stesso Vitino, Zibibbo, Alexandria,
It is the same
Passito,
winery based in Pantelleria that we've tasted the Zabiba from, but in this case it's a Moscato that was dried on straw mats for weeks,
succo e una
order to
zuccheri.
concentrate sugar.
Ha degli zuccheri totali circa 130 grammi litro.
The total residual sugar is 130 grams per liter, so that means a real passito.
Sì. Profilo aromatico molto giocato tra
The aromatic profile encompasses honey, jams, nuts.
che qui sicuramente è un vino che da
And
bere
here
da solo
again, it's wine that, when
qualcuno magari
consumed on its own, may be difficult.
non credo.
Well, some of you might like to use it as a meditation wine, but I doubt it. I think it work well with a dessert or also a blue cheese like a Roquefort.
Questi due qua sarebbe perfetto.
This would work perfectly.
Torrefazione. Sì, sì, sì.
And roasted
Delicato assolutamente.
notes, roasted coffee. It's very, very delicate.
Rosemary.
Rosemary.
Sì, sì, sì. C'è anche un approccio pure fresco.
Well, it does have something fresh to it,
Mi
absolutely.
piace questo.
How'd you like this one?
Ok. Con questo abbiamo finito la
So that was the last wine in our flight that helped us travel through Italy, exploring different areas and different varieties. I'm asking now if there are any questions from Chicago or any questions to what I've said so far. Apparently, no comments. Okay, very well. Hello, friends.
A voi. Buongiorno a voi.
Hello, good morning.